My name is Kenyon Curtis. I'm with AmeriFirst Financial. Been a loan officer with them for quite a while, and just going over some things that to help give you little tips on how to make it easier to qualify for your loan. One of the biggest problems we have is what we call cash in the deal. This is where for example, earnest money. Let's say you're working with a realtor. You make an offer on a house, and you're putting an earnest money deposit to secure your position on that contract and in that offer to the buyer or to the seller. If that earnest money deposit has come from a cashier's check, a money order, any type of a transaction that we can't trace where the money came from. And what I mean by trace is you can show a money order or a cashier's check receipt from a Circle K, for example, but where did that money come from to make that transaction? The best way to put money down in a earnest money deposit or anything else is to go directly to your bank and get a cashier's check directly from them. That way we see the money coming out of your account and going into the cashier's check, totally traceable. We know where those funds came from. Now the biggest reason this is a concern, sometimes we look at that and say, well, why is it such a big deal? We actually have the underwriting guidelines, and I've had to show them to a few people to explain to them. There's pretty clear criteria there. It says no cash in the deal. And so we want to avoid that at all costs. Another way that cash gets into the deal is by way of deposits. When we're qualifying somebody for their loan, we're going to look at their bank statements. And in those bank statements, let's say you've got a deposit, of $550. That's what we consider a large deposit. In fact, anything over $100 is considered a large deposit. We have to know where that money came from if it's not clearly tied to a payroll or something that's fixed, like a Social Security, any kind of an income. Now, the reason for that is it's clear why it's needed, but sometimes it is a little confusing why it's such a big deal. But the biggest reason for this is what we call lien position. Okay? When a bank is getting ready to loan you money to buy a house, they want to make sure that they are secured in first lien position. They don't want anybody else to even have a slight potential of beating them to first lien position. So how does that tie to cash in the deal and deposits? Let's say that you have had some large deposits, cash, untraceable, we don't know where the money came from. Let's also say that part of those deposits are going to be used towards your down payment of a 3.5% down payment that FHA requires. We've got to know where that money came from. Because now there's a question of, what if that money was borrowed? What if it came from a friend or family member to help you get the down payment? What if they are at some point going to want that money back? If they're going to want that money back, and you have made some prior arrangement unknown to the lender about how they're going to get that money back down the road, and then 3 months, 6 months down the road, this person comes up and say, hey, I deposited that money. Here's a bank statement showing it leaving my account. I want that money back. Now this becomes a prior arrangement, prior contract, and it could jeopardize the bank's lien position in first place. So, kind of a tricky situation, kind of a little bit going on there, but that's the basic gist of why we want to make sure there's no cash in the deal. There's some other reasons, but it's always safest to any money going in and out of your account for at least 60 days, 2 months prior to closing your loan, we want to be able to trace it. Now, if you are borrowing some money, or let's say getting some gift money from a parent or an employer or whatever is allowed by the loan guidelines, we've got to be able to track that money. And it's what we call source and season. We've got to source it. We've got to find out where that money came from. We've got to season it for 2 months. Typically 2 months is fine. If the money's been in your account for over 2 months, chances are it's your money, and they're not going to question it. So we got to source and season all monies for 2 months. Money that's coming from parents, for example, towards a down payment, if they're depositing $550 to help you out, we've got to have a copy of their bank statement to show that the money was there and actually see the transaction of it leaving the account, you know, $550 withdrawal or a check or some kind of other credit against the account. And then we've also got to see a $550 deposit into your account to say, okay, there's where the money came from, there's where it went. And quite often we also need a copy of the cleared check so that the check has to actually clear the account, and then get a copy of that cleared check, both sides, front and back, in order to trace that money. So it sounds like a few extra steps, a little bit of a hassle sometimes, but you know what, if everybody works together, we're all working for the same thing, just to help you buy your house. We just do what the guidelines ask for, and then we close your loan. It's pretty simple.